Well, as you know, good afternoon. This is Bonnie Rano, and I am the state breastfeeding or breast pump program coordinator for Oregon WIC. And I just want to welcome you to this training. We're going to cover a lot of different topics. And the training objectives are listed here. We are going to learn a lot more about Hygieia products, and we have a guest speaker who will do a demonstration of the new Evolve single-user pump. When that part is done, we are going to move into talking about the role and responsibilities of the breast pump coordinator. And we'll also talk about some resources that are available to local agencies. We're going to talk about TWIST and the 4 reports that are in TWIST that are meant to aid in the management of breast pumps. And we are going to talk about some specific procedures related to breast pumps in WIC. And so there's a lot to cover. And so we'll just hop right in here. I thought I would just provide you with a little bit of history to show what has happened with pumps in the last 22 years. Oregon WIC began offering pumps back in 1999. There's actually some pumps that are in the TWIST inventory screen that say 1999 on them. That's the earliest ones I could find, because that predates my time at WIC. And in 2003 is when some pump partnerships were started with primarily hospitals. 2010 is when the Affordable Care Act came into being, which changed things a little bit because it required the insurance companies to provide breastfeeding equipment, including pumps. And it took until about 2020, last year, for OHP to finally begin providing pumps in some areas of the state. I think that for the most part, most areas now have their CCO providing pumps. But if you live in an area that still is not getting pumps from your CCO, if you would just put that in the chat, I'd be interested in just kind of getting an idea as to where we're at with that, because we've done a lot of work over the last 10 years to try to move that direction. Okay, then in 2017, we learned that Medela would be discontinuing the Lactina pump, which has been our main workhorse pump for Oregon WIC. And so we selected the Hygieia Endear to become our replacement multi-user pump. And then in 2018, Medela discontinued their 2-handed pump. And in 2020, they discontinued their pump and style and their original Harmony. And then just this year, they discontinued their Lactina kits, which was about 5 years earlier than we anticipated. So for all those reasons, we decided we had to make a switch from Medela products. And so we had a pump pilot this summer, and the Hygieia Evolve was selected as our new single-user pump. And this is kind of a view of what our pumps in Oregon now look like. We still have Lactinas that are in our supply. We also have the Endear pump, which is the Hygieia product. Many agencies have a few of these, but there also are some agencies that do not yet have any Endear pumps. And fortunately, the Hygieia pump kit does work on the Lactina. So I put a picture here to kind of show you how, once we run out of kits from Medela, we can use the kits from Hygieia if needed to keep our Lactinas going. Many of our Lactinas are wearing out at this point, and so we'll see. But as far as our single-user pump, we've been using the pump and style, and now we'll be moving to the Evolve, which Tom will demonstrate in just a minute. And as far as our WIC manual pumps, we had Medela's 1-handed Harmony pump, and then the 2-handed pump. And Hygieia also offers a 1-handed pump and a 2-handed pump. And so as we run out of the Medela products, we'll be switching over to these Hygieia products. So we're going to finish our training here. I have a lot more than I think I'm going to be able to cover. So we're just going to hop to it and see how far we get. And if we need to continue this at part of another meeting, well, so be it, I guess. So, okay, so the next part of our meeting, we're changing gears a little bit to talk about the role of the breast pump coordinator. And I know in some of the smaller agencies, the breastfeeding coordinator and the breast pump coordinator are one and the same person. But in some of the larger agencies, the breastfeeding coordinator will select another staff member to become the breast pump coordinator. And these are some of the duties that the breast pump coordinator would then be responsible for. It would involve maintaining, managing the inventory, submitting the orders and then dealing with the orders when they came in and making sure any new equipment got put into the data system. And then they would be helping the certifiers also with tracking of the multi-user pumps, single-user pumps, and manual pumps. They would be your go-to person for knowledge about pump policies and procedures. We do rely a lot on policy 712, which is our breast pump policy, and then the breast pump handbook, which is more like our Bible for breast pumps in Oregon WIC. It gives all sorts of details. And then the breast pump coordinator at the local level is also the primary contact for Julia and myself when it comes to dealing with orders or any kind of issues that have come up with orders. So these are some of the resources that are available in regards to pumps. You'll see, first of all, that's our website, and that's the breastfeeding page of our Oregon WIC website. And on that page, about midway down, there's a section called WIC Breast Pump Resources. And on that section, you'll find all of these things. The first thing is the breast pump handbook, because that is so important. And then the pump questionnaires and loan and release forms are there. The breast pump educational materials that are available through Shopify are also shown there. And there's all sorts of user guides for how to clean a pump and test a pump and troubleshoot pumps. There's information on the partnerships. There's copies of the letters that you would send to somebody who needs to return a pump. Just a wealth of resources right there at your fingertips. And I would really encourage you to download and put the breast pump handbook right on your own computer. If you have it in electronic version, it's really great because you can go to the table of contents and then just click on whatever section you're needing to look at real quickly, and it'll just take you right there. You don't have to scroll through. And so that's a real nice feature of this handbook. But as you can see on this handbook, is everything from the ordering till to the disposing of the pump. And it talks about the educational process and what to do with an overdue pump and how to clean a pump and what to do if a pump needs repair. Right now, the Medela pumps are no longer on warranty, and so we can't get them repaired. But if you have a problem with a Hygeia pump, then there is a process for repairing those or replacing those. And I will need to make some updates to this handbook now that we are changing to a few different products. So there's information in the very back of the handbook too that talks about flanges and helping set expectations for new parents about pumping, tips for pumping more milk. There's just a lot of information here. So as you can see, it's like 40 pages long. So I really encourage you to understand and know that this is there for you. Okay, so now let's talk about TWIST and the different screens and reports that are important for tracking pumps. Just as a reminder, agencies are required to enter both multi-user and single-user pumps into TWIST. The entry of manual pumps or kits is optional. But over the years, I've noticed that many agencies are really only entering their multi-user pumps and they're not putting their single-user pumps in. And one of the reasons for that is because a lot of the inventory and the data on the inventory screen is messed up. And it's happened over a period of years where people didn't enter pumps, but they did take out pumps. And so there's a little communication that goes on between screens. And so it made the numbers of available pumps inaccurate. So one of my goals was to try to get the twist screens cleaned up and ready for moving over to Otis. And so about a year ago, over a year now, I undertook this project to get these reports cleaned up. And my goal was really to help each agency be able to see that the pumps that they were, that were assigned to them, that they could tell the status of that pump and that it would be accurate. And it has just taken a lot more time than I anticipated. Each agency and each pump, I often have to go not only into the pump screens, but I have to open the participant screens and try to track what's happened. And even with some help from Jan Apland, I'm still not quite done, but I'm coming down the home stretch. I'm in the single digits now. So I have, the total is about 33 agencies and then about about a dozen different partners to go through all their pumps. And some of these pumps have been around for years and years, like the early 2000s. And so it's just been a lot to sort of sift through, but we're coming along and getting that project done. So let's just kind of review how the process is supposed to work, and hopefully it will work this way once some of these reports are cleaned up. So step one is that the breast pump coordinator would enter the quantity and type of pumps they receive. This is new inventory, and they would put that into the breast pump inventory screen in Twist. And to get to that screen, you would go to Operations Management, and then you would hit Tables, and then Breast Pump Inventory, which is the last item on the list. If you are not able to open this, it means that you don't have the proper security role. And so if you are the new pump coordinator, please call app support and ask them for the pump coordinator security roles so that you can access the reports. When you open the breast pump inventory screen, it might take a little while to load. But it's a very large screen, and so I had to put it on 2 different slides. But this is one of the tables in Twist where you can expand it so that you could expand it, vertically and horizontally so that it can fill your whole screen and you can see the whole inventory screen at once, which is really helpful. And let's just talk about the columns here. The date added is the date that the pump was put into service. And so since we haven't been buying a lot of new pumps lately, most of these dates are a little bit older. The type is a drop down where you can choose a Lactina or the Endear, or you can also look at entering the manual pumps, the single user pumps, or the kits. And the serial numbers are entered for any multi-user pumps. And so you'll see in this example from Klamath is they have some pumps listed here that are Medela Lactinas, and then they have some that are Hygeia Endears that are down here. And you'll see they actually have, at least in the past, entered manual pumps, and they've entered their single user pumps as well. And so when I go, well, first it says the name of the agency, and then clinic if you want to divide it up. Some agencies are small enough that they really don't need to use this feature at all. This feature does make a difference on how the reports will print out. And so if you really only have a few pumps, in one of your satellite clinics, it's probably not worth it to add them into this clinic slot. But for our larger agencies, it is helpful for them to label their clinics. And then you'll see partnerships here. One thing I just did recently is I asked our programmers to disable the partner pumps from local agencies. So you will no longer see those pumps on your inventory screen. I did this for a couple different reasons. One is that it was really a nuisance for a lot of local agencies to see all these other partner pumps. But the main reason is that we're in the process of discontinuing a lot of our partnerships. Some have been, most of them have been initiated by the hospital. They say they're not using WIC pumps anymore. Some haven't used a WIC pump for 2 or 3 years or more. And they have, durable medical equipment companies that they're using to be able to provide pumps for moms. And also we don't have the Lactina or the Lactina kit to offer our partners anymore. And so we're in the process of discontinuing most of those. And so right now they're connected only to the state agency. If for some reason you would find you got a form from a hospital saying that they gave a hospital pump to somebody, then please just forward that information to me and I can take care of the entry at the state level. But that just seemed to be the easiest way to deal with the partners. And so this is a continuation of the pump inventory screen. And so you'll see a quantity added. That's if you are adding a multi-user pump, it's always a 1 because you enter them singly and put in their serial number. Or if you're adding a bunch of manual pumps or kits or something like that, you would enter them as a group, like 20 or 40, like you see here. And then what Twist generally does is if there is ample quantity in the system, then as you use those products and you enter them in as being issued, then it keeps track of the inventory for you. Like I said, right now, most of the agencies don't have accuracy when it comes to these parts. So the quantity available is, if you've issued a pump, it should become a 0. However, we do have a little kink going on right now with Twist. And every once in a while, when a status is changed from issued back to available, this number is failing to change. And I see one right here even. You can see most of these are available, but here, this pump right here says available, but the quantity available is still set at 0. So if you run into that issue where you're trying to check out a pump to somebody, you have it in your hands, and yet Twist won't accept it, this is probably the reason. And you just need to send me an email with the pump number and I can fix that at the state level. This has been happening more and more lately, so I don't know why, but it is fixable. So just send me an email. This is not something you can fix on your own at the local level. Then once a pump is out, like permanently out of service or unrecoverable, then there'll be a date in this screen. There's also a notes section, and then if a pump is issued, it displays the WIC ID number of the person that it's issued to. And just going back to the first screen, these are all, if you click on serial number, for example, it'll put all the serial numbers in order. And if you need to change something from a clinic back to your agency, or there's been some swapping around, these are all things that you can do yourself. You just may not know how to do them. And so if you need some help, just let me know. But most functions you're able to do on your own. The couple things that you can't do is you can't change a pump from available to unrecoverable. It has to go through an investigation process first. And so that's one of the things that locals cannot do without state help. So, okay. So the next thing then is there's a second report that's in Twist, and it starts the same way with operations management, but instead of tables, it's under outputs, and it's the first item on the list, also called breast pump inventory. And when this screen opens, you have some choices to make. If you don't select any, your agency will fill in. I'm under the state, so I would have to select an agency. But under pump type, you can just put in the Lactina if you wanted, or if you left it blank, you would get all of these things. And then for pump status, you can just check to see what's available, or you can check to see only what's issued, or if you leave it blank, then all these statuses will show up. So I really encourage you to for tracking purposes, to just click on Lactina or click on Endear, it would be two separate times you'd have to run the report. There's not one where you can get both Lactina and Endear on the same report. But otherwise, you get a lot of these other things that can just, take up space that you're probably not interested in. So this is what the breast pump inventory report looks like. And this one is for Clackamas, which I have recently been working to get it cleaned up. As you can see, they have chosen to list some of their sites, their clinic sites, because they have some pumps at those sites. So the agencies listed up here, they have a Canby site that has one pump. Their Oregon City has some pumps that are available. The Sandy site has a couple pumps available, and their Wichita site has a couple pumps available. And right now there are no pumps that are issued. One thing you'll see on this report is that you aren't seeing any that are unrecoverable or permanently out of service, because I have removed those. And I did that because some of those pumps have been, gone forever. And so I have, partway through doing these cleanups, I sort of discovered a way to have that. We can't get rid of the data. It's in Twist, it's there to stay. But I found a way to move those pumps that are unrecoverable or permanently out of service to a different place so that it doesn't have to show up on your report. So this should make your reports a lot shorter and clearer, easier to read. At the bottom of the breast pump inventory report, there's a little square rectangle that tells you how many are available, how many are issued, or if any of these other statuses are checked, they would be listed here. And in this report, I went in only under Lactina, and so it is not showing these other pump types on this one. But if a agency did not mark Lactina and they just got everything, their box, like this one for Douglas County, would show they have 10 available, 9 are issued. I haven't removed theirs yet, obviously. There's 39 out of service, 18 unrecoverable, which I'll try to clean up here. And there's 2 that are currently, that have been referred to the state and are under investigation. And they also show what their inventory is for these other types of pumps. This example from Klamath, Klamath does have the Medela, Lactina, and the Endear. And so when it says the quantity available, it actually adds those 2 together. There are 16 Lactinas and there are 4 Endears. Okay, let's see. The next step in terms of pump tracking would be, the certifier would assess a person's need for a pump and then determine what pump. And if she was determining that it was a multi-user pump that the participant needed, then she would explain that and go over the loan agreement or a release form if it was a single user pump. And that would get signed. And then the next step would be to issue or to enter the issuance into Twist. And so that gets entered on the participant side. And I know you're familiar with that screen. This shows it's under breastfeeding tracking, breast pump issuance. And then there's the date that the pump was put into, into Oregon's inventory. The drop down would give you the choice of the Lactina, the single user pump, or the Endear. You would enter the serial number of the pump that you were going to be loaning. You would put in the date, and then you would put in when it's due. So that due date can be extended. And once the pump is returned, you would enter the return date here. One thing I did want to share about this screen, I think there's been some misunderstanding that if a pump is not returned and 30 days have gone by and you want to refer that overdue pump to the state, the way you document that is to click this referred to state box and you put in the date. And then, but that doesn't notify us. That's just documentation that you've done that. And so in addition to that, you need to send us an email saying you have an overdue pump that you want us to look into. And then you send us a copy of the loan agreement and a copy of the letter that you sent asking for the pump's return. And once we have those documents, then we can proceed with sending a letter to the participant. That letter is accompanied with a bill for the pump. So I think right now our standard letter says $304 or something. And once participants receive the bill, combo letter, that often gets their attention. And so they often will call and make arrangements to bring the pump back. That's always our hope anyway. And okay, so this screen, I think we're not going to see the other. This also extends out, but moving on. The step 4 then, when a multi-user pump is issued, is to then, if you look in the family summary screen, you'll see that there's a display date for when the Lactina is due to be returned. And then when the Lactina is returned, that disappears, it just removes it from the family summary screen. If the pump is not returned by the due date, then the data field becomes red in the family summary screen. If the pump is never returned and it was referred to the state and the state's determined that the pump is unrecoverable, then that data field in the family summary screen becomes turquoise. And this is what it looks like. So this is an issued pump here. That's a pump that's overdue. So in the process of trying to recover that pump at the local level, and it may stay red while the state works on it for a while too, if it gets referred to state staff. And then if, in the long run, we just determined it's unrecoverable, then you see the turquoise one. And the one takeaway from the turquoise screen is that means they have not returned a pump that they were issued. And so this means the participant does not qualify to borrow a Lactina or Indeer again in the future, because they have been unreliable in terms of returning the pump. And so that's what that screen means. Then step 5 is the way for an agency can run what's called the multi-user pump tracking report and also the breast pump issuance report in order to be able to follow up with participants easily. There's also a notes field in the where you enter the pump in the pump loan or the single user pump that you've given. So you can use that notes field as well. But these other reports are pretty slick. And where you find these other 2 reports are under client processes, to output, reports, nutrition education, breastfeeding. And then on that breastfeeding list, the last 2 items on the list are these 2 reports. So it's kind of a long trail, but it will get you there. And the multi-user pump tracking report used to be called the Lactina tracking report, but that was changed when we started using the Indeer. And this is kind of on the landing page. You have, again, the choice to make some selections here. You can look at only issued pumps or pumps under investigation or whatever, or you can leave it blank. You do have to enter dates. And so if you want to look at the last 3 months, for example, to see kind of where you're at with your who's borrowed a pump and who is getting overdue or whatever, you would put in the dates of the last 3 months and you'd run the report. And then you would, this is the way it looks when it comes out, although you would see the actual names of the participants where I had to block them out in order to show you this. And so it would give your agency name, your clinic name, it would give the name of the participant, their WIC ID number, their alternative contact, their alternative contact's phone number, and then any phone numbers that are listed for the participant would be below the participant's name here. And in this particular example, it looks like there are 4 people that have borrowed pumps. It provides their WIC IDs, the serial numbers of the pumps, when they're due, or if they're overdue. You can kind of look at the date and say, oh, look at that, all of these, now that we're at October 27th, these 4 pumps are all overdue. And so it may mean contacting the participant again, sending her a letter, or it may mean contacting their alternative if you can't get a hold of the participant themselves. And so this is just a nice way to track your multi-user pumps that are currently issued. And so if you haven't used this report before, I encourage you to use it. Some agencies just keep running this report like every week, and they keep a binder full of the report and people's notes on them about who they've tried to contact, etc. And then once you get to be about 30 days beyond the pump being due, that is when you would go ahead and refer it to the state. And most of you are guilty of just not wanting to bother us too soon. And so you often will wait months and months before you notify us that there's an overdue pump. And so that can make it more difficult to get the pump back, the more time that goes by. But anyway, so that's that report. Then the next report is called the breast pump issuance report. And it's the last one here. And basically it's a simple tally of the pumps that are issued, the pumps that have been returned, the pumps that have been referred, or any that have been recovered. And you get to it through that same long trail, and you can see what you want to see, or you can put in just Lactina, for example, or you can see where all of your products are in terms of what has been issued for, how many manual pumps have you issued this month, and were they 2-handed ones or 1-handed ones, and how many Lactinas, or how many pump-in styles, or how many evolves. We'll have to add the evolve in here. So it's up to you whether you run it for everything, but again, you do need dates to enter in order for the process the report to process. So okay, I know I went through all those twist reports pretty quickly. I know many of you are already familiar with them, but there's enough new breast pump coordinators or breastfeeding coordinators that may not have known about these resources. So I wanted to go over them. Are there any questions at this point? Looks like I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
I do have one, Bonnie. This is Sylvia with the state, Josephine County.
Oh, hi, Sylvia. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so you mentioned for the state to send out the letter. Who should we fax that information to?
Yes, you can send it to me, or you can send it to Greg LaValle.
Okay.
Either one of us. And we or you can copy both of us if you want. What we do, though, once we kind of document it, is that we end up giving it to Michelle, who you may have seen is the one who actually sends out the letter. They've been trying to remember to copy the local agency when a letter goes out, so that that we have, in fact, received the referral and that it's in process. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of teeth to, to getting a pump back. And so we cannot remove a participant from the program if they fail to bring a pump back. We can just, continue to ask them about it, that we, the red Lactina on the family summary screen could stay there quite a while. But if you see that there's one there and it's been years, please let us know so that we can resolve that pump and get it turned to turquoise if it hasn't been returned. So, and in the minutes, Sylvia, I will put mine and Greg's email addresses in so that you know who to contact. How's that
Excellent.
sound?
Thank
Okay.
you, Bonnie. Yes, thank you.
And it looks like Rebecca has a question here. Once a bill is sent out to a participant for the price of the pump, if it's not returned, will they always be responsible to pay for that amount? No, we often at that point will get the real story as to what's happened with the pump. They'll call and explain that, there was, a situation where they had to leave their home, or they accidentally left it on the MAX train, or whatever. We've heard all sorts of things. And at that point, if we feel like it really is going to not be recoverable at all because of the situation, then we go ahead and determine that the pump is unrecoverable. And that then changes the status we change it to that status. That turns the red Lactina reminder to turquoise. And that means you no longer have to ask them about that pump and bringing it back. It's a done deal at that point. So like I said, a lot of those that are still in red, really need to be resolved. And it may be that we never got the information from the local agency, or it got missed somehow. I know some years back there was some problems with that. And so that's been part of my challenge with trying to clean up these reports, is figuring out what has happened to all these pumps that, have disappeared. So sometimes a participant will contact us to set up a payment plan. There's information in the letter about that. We rarely go that direction. We really just want to kind of find out what they know about what happened to the pump. But there are occasions when they will in fact reimburse for the pump. And if so, then we would count that pump as returned because they have paid for it. So. Is there another question above this one? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, we only have 7 minutes. So let's see, what do you think would be most important for you to hear about? These are the, I have a long set of slides that goes over a lot of the typical procedures with what you do at the local level in regards to pumps. A lot of this was borrowed with permission from a 2-part pump training that Washington County WIC organized and offered in 2020. So a big thank you goes out to Jeanette Lopez and Sanaida Valdivia for organizing that awesome training. But I'm obviously not going to have the ability to share it all with you in 7 minutes. So these are some of the things that were on that list. Perhaps you can look at this and then take yourself off mute if you have a feeling as to what you would really like to cover. We were going to talk about that pumps aren't always necessary, but when a pump is needed, that there needs to be a specific reason for the pump, and how you determine whether you're loaning a multi-user pump or giving a single user pump or a manual pump. There are specific criteria for each of those pumps. There's also some reasons where you cannot give a pump, those exclusions that WIC has. We're going to talk about insurance and pumps, and pump education for the participant, and then just managing multi-user pumps. There's a nice picture guide for what you do when a pump is returned, what the process is. There's also information on how to fit flanges and use a pressure gauge and how to troubleshoot other pump problems. So there's enough here that we could probably meet for another hour at a future meeting if you would like, and we can go over some of that information. Or if you have a strong feeling about any of those topics in particular, we'll go right there, and for a few minutes we can look at those slides. What do you think? Kathleen? Looks like Shannon says we should wait and do it at a future meeting.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit much, Bonnie, to try and do too much more in our
in our time together. Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. Kathleen, did you have a specific question?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. There you go.
Oh, sorry, I had to fix my mic. Yeah, I just was wondering about, when it comes to doing breast pump inventory, how specific are we supposed to get? Like, are we supposed to count like every single bag of extra items, like the bags that have all the extra flanges and like tubing in it? Like, do we count all those? Or are we just counting like hand pumps and personal pumps?
Right. You're keeping track of the manual pumps, the single user pumps, multi-user pumps, and the kits. Those 4 things. Sounds
okay,
like
so
you need to mute. The other things you've purchased over the years are more for the benefit of participants, so that you have some extra flanges sizes on hand in case a woman, the ones that come with the pump don't work for her, or if she needs some extra tubing, or something broke, or her dog ate the knob off the pump, those kind of things. If you have some extras of those, then they're available to assist you with the, participants' needs as they come up. So, okay, well, it looks like because of time, we'll take an hour at a future meeting, and we'll be able to talk about all these things then. And maybe you'll think about some questions that you have between now and then. So for today, what we ended up doing is just talking about Twist and our new Hygieia products. And we will just move down here. Oops, it's not even loading. Let's see. So this, I guess there isn't any other final slide. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that any questions got answered, or if you had any comments. Like I said earlier, I will send you some information attached to the minutes about the Hygieia contact and the app. And once we complete this training, then there are some other resources that I would attach also, including the slides if you're interested, but probably not until we go over all of them. So, okay, well, thank you so much for your attention. I am wanting you to know that I really am working on your pump inventories. And I know some of you have already, yours is cleaned up and it's great, but there's still some work to be done on some others. So if this Otis stuff didn't take so much time, we would be working on it more. But I appreciate, all the work that you put into helping me learn which pumps really need to be changed in Twist. I know you had to research a lot of pump statuses yourself as to kind of why this particular pump number is assigned to you. You've never even seen that pump in your clinic and all of that sort of thing. So I appreciate all those notes, and you've been trying to get through a lot of those so that we can meet our end goal, which is a system that works for you and that these reports can work for you, particularly in regards to the multi-user pumps. We're not going to be doing a lot of cleanup in regards to the single users and things, because Otis is going to be here soon enough, and it's just not worth the programmer's time to try to undo some of those inventory numbers on those other products. So we're really concentrating on the multi-user pumps. All right, I am going to stop sharing my screen then, and I'll turn on my camera briefly, just so you know I really do exist. Hi, thank you for your time and your attention to this topic. Feel free to email me if you have other questions. Kelly, is there anything else that you needed from this meeting?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone for attending the meeting today and the training, and thank you, Bonnie, for all the information on pumps. That we really covered a lot, and it was a great, a great review, and the new information about the new pump was really helpful to see that demonstrated. So thank you, and thank thank you everyone for joining, and we're going to close because it's a minute after. Thank you
Okay,
so
very
much.
good. Have a good rest of your afternoon, all.
Thanks
Bye.
everyone.